Welcome back. In this lesson, we're taking a tour through the beautiful diversity of pagan traditions. Think of this like visiting different neighborhoods in a large and welcoming city. Each has its own character, history, and culture, but they're all part of the same community. I want to emphasize that this overview just scratches the surface of the many, many pagan paths that are out there. Each tradition we'll discuss has deep history, rich practices, and dedicated communities. This tour will help you get oriented and identify which tradition might call to you for deeper study. Celtic paganism draws from the spiritual traditions of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and a few other places. These are some of the most popular pagan paths today. Celtic traditions often focus on connection with the land and local spirits, honoring ancestors and family lineage, and working with Celtic deities like Brigid, the goddess of inspiration and smithcraft, Lugh, the god of just skills and harvest, and the Morrigan, a goddess associated both with war and with fate. They celebrate fire festivals like Samhain and Beltane. They emphasize poetry, storytelling, and oral traditions, and often use Ogham or the Celtic tree alphabet for divination of sorts. Modern Celtic pagans might call themselves Druids, Celtic Reconstructionists, or simply Celtic pagans. These are three different versions of Celtic paganism that have their own diverse and different beliefs and different structures, but they're all part of the Celtic pagan, family of traditions. Some focus on one specific Celtic culture, like the Irish or the Welsh Celtics, while others draw from the broader Celtic world in general. Norse paganism, sometimes called heathenry or Asatru, draws from the spiritual traditions of Scandinavia and overall Germanic Europe. Key elements include honoring the Norse gods like Odin, the Allfather, the god of wisdom, death, and magic, Thor, the thunder god and protector, and Freya, the goddess of love, magic, battle, and fertility. Norse paganism has a strong emphasis on honor, courage, and community bonds. Working with runes for magic and divination, they honor ancestor veneration and family loyalty. They celebrate seasonal festivals like Yule and understand concepts like weird or fate or destiny. And of course, the nine worlds of Norse cosmology as well, all aligned with the world tree Yggdrasil. Norse pagans often organize into groups called kindreds or hearths, and there is significant emphasis on scholarship and historical accuracy in many of the Norse pagan communities. Hellenic or Greek and Roman polytheism are experiencing some modern revivals of their own, with practitioners working to reconstruct ancient practices using historical sources. These traditions typically involve honoring the Olympian gods and other Greek and Roman deities like Zeus, Athena, Apollo, and Diana. They emphasize household and community religious practices, philosophical approaches to spirituality, regular offerings and festival celebrations, and the study of ancient texts and archaeological evidence, and as well as virtue ethics and civic responsibility. Modern practitioners often call themselves Hellenists or Roman polytheists, and they place strong emphasis on historical accuracy and scholarly research. Now, I combined the Hellenic and Roman paths together for this slide just because a lot of their deities have pretty easy crossovers, and a lot of their traditions and practices are pretty syncretic. They connect and they're very similar with each other. Next, we have Wicca. Wicca was founded in the mid 20th century by Gerald Gardner and has become one of the most visible pagan traditions. Wiccan practices often include worship of a goddess and a god, representing the divine feminine and the divine masculine principles. They typically celebrate the Wheel of the Year with its 8 seasonal Sabbats, working, from some from the Celtic, some from Norse, and kind of mix all these different festivals, the seasonal festivals and the fire festivals together to create their own Wheel of the Year. They tend to work with the four elements like earth, air, fire, water, and sometimes spirit. They typically include witchcraft practices like casting circles for protection. They follow the Wiccan Rede, if it harm none, do what you want, and use ritual tools like athames, pentacles, and the like. Many traditions have been influenced by Wicca, even if they're not strictly Wiccan, following elements like circle casting or seasonal celebrations. There are many different forms of Wicca, from traditional British traditional Wicca to eclectic solitary practice. Majority of Wiccans out there are very eclectic, and the source of Wicca was an eclectic pagan path to begin with, so many Wiccans kind of pick and choose and form their own paths based on that. Some pagans work with other gods like Egyptian, Mesopotamian, or other pantheons out there. Kemetic Reconstructionism focuses on the ancient Egyptian religion and beliefs, working with deities like Isis, Osiris, and Thoth, and emphasizing Ma'at, which is a term that represents truth, balance, and justice. Many modern pagans create their own spiritual practices by drawing from multiple sources respectfully. These are what we call eclectic paths, and they might combine elements from different traditions respectfully, create personal relationships with deities from various pantheons, adapt ancient practices for modern life, and focus on what personally resonates rather than following one tradition exactly. There are also practitioners working with the Slavic, Lithuanian, and other regional European traditions, as well as those who focus primarily on bioregional nature spirituality. They focus on a nature version of paganism that's very specific to whatever bioregion they're in, whether it be jungle, desert, forest, prairie, grasslands, etc. This is an important slide to bring in because it's important to understand that some spiritual traditions are closed, meaning they're specific to a particular culture or ethnic group and are not open to outsiders. Other pagan paths are open and welcome sincere practitioners regardless of their background. Most Celtic, Norse, Wiccan, and Greco-Roman traditions are generally open and to respectful practitioners, most because there's a lot of trade, a lot of interconnection of cultures for those particular cultures, so that they were open to that exchange more so. However, many Native American or African traditional religions and some forms of shamanism are absolutely closed to outsiders. So be sure to always research and approach any tradition with respect for its cultural context. If you have any questions, reach out to somebody who follows that path to get more information. And remember, this isn't about exclusion or gatekeeping. It's about respecting the rights of cultures to maintain their sacred traditions as they see fit. As we conclude this little short tour of pagan traditions, remember that you don't have to choose just one path immediately. And you don't have to choose at all. And the path you choose, you may change it down the road, and that's okay. Many pagans explore several traditions before finding their primary practice, and some remain eclectic throughout their spiritual lives. Consider which cultures or geographical regions call to you, whether you prefer working with specific deities or more general divine connection. How important historical accuracy is versus modern adaptation, and whether you're drawn to community practice or prefer a more solitary exploration. Remember to take time to explore what resonates with you personally. So in our next lesson, we'll look at how these ancient traditions translate a little more into modern life and modern practice. Thank you for listening to this portion of Lesson 2. Please continue with the course sections below, and I'll see you in the next lesson.